If you are sad and you want to act selflessly, good afternoon, friends. I hope your day is going well. If it's not, this video may be helpful. In this video, we're going to discuss how sadness is contagious. But before we do, please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, like the video, and comment on the video to help the channel. Now let's get started. To introduce the subject to you, you've probably heard before that being in large social networks and having fruitful, close relationships with friends is protective against depression. But you probably never heard of the reverse directional effect, which is that being friends with depressed people can make you depressed. The reason you probably never heard of this is actually because it's a poorly studied phenomenon. We'll begin with a meta-analysis from 1999. This meta-analysis of 36 studies found that depression appeared to be contagious, and not only so, but more contagious than positive emotion. This supported some landmark 2001 papers, which posited that our brains are biased towards negative rather than positive things in general, and that negative things are dominant over positive things in our brains, maybe because of the contagiousness of negativity, such that when one negative and one positive are combined together of the same weight, we usually have a negative result. Finally, in 2010, Hill et al. Proposed an infectious disease model of communicable mood states in humans, a social contagion model, a model that showed how feelings and affect could be contagious across humans using network theory. The model originally posited that experiences with others that are, for example, negative are cumulative, such that they eventually affect the other person. Whatever quality one person is encountering from another person eventually gets transferred according to the number of interactions and the depth of interactions that they have. Later on, this theory was built upon further, showing that depressed people actually sought out other depressed people and then made each other depressed. In 2014, this framework was further developed with a longitudinal study that showed that the vulnerability to depression also appeared contagious across people. Vulnerability to depression regards something in relation to psychological resilience and sort of the opposite of neuroticism and so on. It's a psychological model, but the point is that people become increasingly vulnerable to altered states as they hang out with more vulnerable people as well. Next, in a 2017 cross-sectional study, it was confirmed that not only do couples seem to share health circumstances and other circumstances in life, but couples appear to be much more likely to be anxious together or depressed together. In fact, in this study, it seemed that having a partner who was either anxious or depressed increased the other person's likelihood of being either one of them by several times. Now, this is really interesting because an unsighted study from 2021 shows that it seems that in couples, the couples are not that really empathetic of the other person's feelings. They have a personal bias such that if one person in the couple is depressed, they assume the other person is also depressed and they magnify that effect. So they'll be likely to think the other person is more depressed than they are, even if the other person is not depressed. Although being in a couple does seem to increase the likelihood of the other person being depressed in the first place. So maybe it's a rational way of thinking. And finally, to get us completely up to date, in 2018, a rodent model of contagious depression was created, in which a standard model of depression in rodents was used. A group of rodents developed that depressive phenotype, and then other rodents were put in with these rodents and developed the same phenotype within 5 weeks. Unfortunately, that takes us to sort of the limit of what's known about the contagiousness of sadness. It's a very poorly researched field. The mechanisms are not very well understood. Maybe some of you could research it yourselves if you have funding or the ability in school. But what takeaways could we take from what we learned already? Well, first, we know that social networks are generally protective. They're generally protective against sadness. But sadness is especially contagious, more than other emotions, and can spread through networks very quickly. Third, if you ever notice a depressed or negative person seems attracted to you and you don't know them already, this may tell you more about yourself than them. Usually, people that have negative emotions or affect will be attracted to others who emit the same kind of emotion. And finally, and practically, if you are sad and you want to act selflessly, keep yourself away from other people. And if you're sad and want to act selfishly and empower yourself, meet other people and interact with them. You'll spread your sadness on them, but you'll end up with slightly less sadness. It's certainly contagious. Anyway, friends, I hope you learned something from this video, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning.